The subject that I wanted to ask about is relating to communication between our physical part and our non-physical part. First of all, dreams. Many times I heard you saying that in the dream state, actually what we remember is being downloaded right before we wake up. And I was wondering, sometimes we spend so much time in our awakening time to try to decipher what those, I would say, signs or ideas in the dream state means to us. And I was wondering why this communication or those ideas or signs are not clearer to us, so we could really understand this communication, because it's clear to me that when we go to sleep, we are one with Source.
The conversation that we've been having recently about the grid will help make this conversation about dreams clearer still. For a while we've been saying what you think about manifests. It also manifests in your dream state.
Yes.
But it's easier to manifest in your dream state because there's less resistance to that manifestation. Today we would like to add to that in the same way that we were just describing to our friend how the grid fills in, the dream that you're having is the grid filling in. So let's talk about what grid is filling in. In other words, is it possible to have a fearful grid going on, to have awareness of something unwanted going on, and then while you're sleeping, that's the grid that fills in? Or something wanted, that's the grid that fills in. So the most helpful thing that you could do for yourself when you awaken from any dream is try to get a piece of the tail of it. In other words, because as soon as you get hold of something, more of it will come back to you. But ask yourself this very important question: how did I feel? How did the dream feel? Because how it felt is your indicator of what grid was filling in. So if it felt fantastic, if it's something that you'd like to dream again, that you want more detail about, then acknowledge consciously, I've got good things going on vibrationally, I'm in a good place, and that grid is filling in. And as you acknowledge that, then more detail will fill in, just like in your wake state, more detail will fill in. But if it felt uncomfortable in the dream state, then say to yourself, that's a grid that I got going on, not really sure how I got it going on, but that's a grid filling in. In other words, are you following us? Do you get this concept of the grid filling in? Of it first becoming a thought, and then becoming an impulse, and then becoming a rendezvous, and then becoming a manifestation. In other words, the big question that we want to help you ask and answer is, how is it that things move from a vibrational state to a manifested state? How is it that those grids fill in? And the grid fills in only by consistent offering of vibration. You offer a vibration consistently enough about wanted or unwanted, and the grid will fill in. So your dreams can be enormously helpful because they can be a sort of advanced announcement of what kind of grids you got going on. And if you're not happy with the way you feel in your dream, then get more general about whatever you think the subject at hand is.
So the story, sometimes when you wake up from the dream, you're trying to understand, even if it was a pleasing dream, you're trying to understand, wait a second, I was in this place, and what did it mean? What does this person mean?
Here's the thing that we want to say to you. Because your question, the basis of your question is such a wonderful one. You started out by talking about communication between physical and non-physical. And that communication between physical and non-physical is, especially in the beginning, a rather subtle thing. In other words, manifestation is not so subtle. If someone walked in the room and banged a drum, it would not be subtle. It would be a manifestation that would get the attention of everyone. But someone could be sitting somewhere in the room feeling very strong negative emotion about something, and you might pick up on it and you might not. Or someone could be feeling very strong positive emotion. The vibrations are more subtle in relationship to manifestations. Esther has been noticing, because She is talking with Jerry now almost every day, writing to him, receiving from him. And it's easy for her, easier than it is for most, because she's already accustomed to the translating of the subtle energy. She knows she has to get into a clear place. She knows she can't have a lot of contradiction going on. Or she knows she must have strong desire. Sometimes she's got contradiction going on because she's missing him, but her desire is strong. But in any case, it's a subtle communication. It's not like him walking into a room and standing in front of her and speaking words to her. It's more subtle than that. Communication with non-physical is more subtle. But what she's beginning to understand is that in its subtlety, when she takes the time, and when her desire is strong, she does, to tune to the subtlety, then even though it's subtle, it is enormously rewarding. And we think this is a conversation about manifestations. We think that this is a conversation about humans want manifestations because you prefer the not so subtle things. You want the manifestation in part because you want to have it, in part because you want others to observe it, in part because observing it then makes it easier to feel it. But if you can show yourself how you can feel it before you observe it, if you can tune yourself to the subtleties of the vibrational frequency of who you are, and then watch the dreamscape fill in, and then watch the wakescape fill in, then you've got it.
I understand. Which brings me to the part of the awakening. What you just said about Esther, she developed over the time the sensitivity to be able to capture this.
And we said that to all of you as we were offering opening remarks here, that by the time you have sat in conscious willingness to listen to these words and to observe the vibrational frequency that carries these words, you become a more subtle translator yourself by the end of the hours that we are together. And you know that if you've ever sat in on these gatherings. It's a remarkable thing. An audience gathers. Some people here for the first time, some have been here many times, some have read everything, some are just beginning the process. But once you begin to tune to the frequency, you get stuff that you usually don't get. You know stuff that you usually don't know. Esther remarks as she's listening back in the editing process of the recordings, she can feel you got it. And she loves it because it was new, first time ever stuff. First time we ever went there, and they were all right there. It was subtle, but they were all right there.